Started. So good morning, everyone. My name's Perry Scholes. I am the CEO and founder of Corporate Internship Leadership Institute. And we're doing work this morning in our 10th Institute program that's focused on helping students of color find a pathway into work experience through internships. And so we'll spend a little bit of time just talking about the organization at first, and then we'll jump into our content. So the 10th Institute is a not-for-profit organization that's founded here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And our mission really is to work on improving internships and the pathway to paying jobs in general in the region. And so we're trying to do that by taking on two really big things. One is the Internship Central, which is a job board. That job board is available to any intern that may be looking for an intern opportunity that is paid. And then also any organization or company or not-for-profit that may be looking to have an intern for the summer, they can post for free on our Internship Central website. And our only request is that that internship be a paid internship. So in general, Internship Central is all things paid internships. The second thing is our 10th Institute. So the 10th Institute is a program that covers three different really big programs that we're focused on as we build our organization out. The first part is residency. Residency starts with students who are in their freshman and sophomore years. Early summer is typically where that student is trying to figure out school and life in general as a college student, not necessarily focused on so much on their career and work yet. What we're trying to do there is really begin to introduce those concepts around what are you going to do when you finish school. There's an opportunity for those students to come into our program, get professional development training, branding training, and financial wellness training, business etiquette. And we're also going to be taking those students on field trips, if you will, to go visit some of the companies in our region, spend the day with those companies, and learn about the job opportunities and the culture at those organizations. So the residency program is really focused on the first 2 years that the college student is in school, so freshman, sophomore years. And then our internship program is really focused on those students that are in a 4-year university, because it's focused on the junior and senior years of school. And that junior or senior year of school, from our research and understanding, that student is more focused on their career outcome and what they may be doing after college. They're getting into their degree curriculum and academics, and are much more closer to that final employment period. And so juniors, rising seniors, those last 2 summers. Internships with our corporate partners will be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, depending on what the corporate partner is looking to do. And then we're asking the intern and the corporate partner to commit to 2 summers. Now, 2 summers mean for the intern, we think that the intern benefits from having 2 opportunities where they've been in an organization learning in their degree field. We think that translates to a good body of work for which they can have on their resume, and then experiences for which they can talk about. From the company perspective, it's really 640 hours of time with that student. And it's a great opportunity for the student to learn that company, or the company to learn that student, and then make a decision on whether or not that student is the right kind of talent for their organization. So 2 opportunities, one for the company to look at the student, and then for the student to look at the company to decide on whether or not they want a career in that organization. Also, our program is intent on making sure we have individual development plans for all of our students. There are coaches and mentors, and particularly I'd like to talk about for our program, since we're focused on students of color, we are really actively engaging and looking for mentors of color, because that, in our opinion, from our research, is an important transformation and guidance that happens in that student's professional and personal life. And then also we'll continue to work on professional branding, as we'll talk about today in the program. It'll be much expanded, financial wellness, and then the internships will definitely be paid internships in our partner companies. And then as our organization grows and our students graduate from college and go into their careers, we will continue to have an alumni network, and that alumni network will be focused on a continuation of a relationship with our students and our graduates from a professional standpoint, creating professional networking opportunities, again, continuing coaching and mentoring, because we think that's still important for that professional in their early career, and then doing work around assessing our students and how well they're doing against the general population. And so this is the 10th Institute's mission and its pipeline of what we think is important to build out talent from students of color for the region and then progressively around the state. So today we're going to be talking about professional branding best practices. And we have two really great speakers, both Malika Moran and Sheila Robinson are HBCU grads. Both of them have excellent and corporate experience working for large organizations, small organizations. They are both entrepreneurs in their own right, and both of them are also engaged in coaching entrepreneurs and working in small businesses and helping those small businesses grow and prosper and develop and scale up to their full potential from a branding standpoint, HR standpoint, and in general. So they are going to provide us with a wealth of information this morning. So we're just going to have a great conversation. And so we're going to jump right into things. And we have Malika Moran from Social Step. So Malika, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. So why don't you just first of all tell us about Social Step Marketing and Consulting and what it's all about, and then we'll start talk about branding work that you're involved in and how that applies to a college student getting ready to jump into that career thing.
Sounds good. As Perry said, my name is Malika Moran. Good morning to all of you. Congratulations for getting through 2020 and set some really good intentions for 2021. My company provides marketing and business solutions for small, medium-sized businesses, also government agencies. And what I like to say about my company and our tagline, talking about branding, is strategic solutions simplified. So we actually make the path to getting to where you want to go from a business standpoint very simple and straightforward. And I hope to do that today when talking about personal branding. I didn't prepare any slides because I really just wanted to have a chat with you all and give you some things to think about when you think about branding. So if you all could put in the chat what you think or how you define branding. Just type it in the chat. I do want to see what you all think branding is. So while I wait for your responses, I'm going to go ahead and walk through some things that I wanted to share with you today. So a lot of people think about branding from the aspect of social media or a logo or colors or a tagline, like I mentioned before. But I want you all to think about branding, especially branding yourselves, as the experience of you. Let that sink in for a minute. It's the experience of you. How do people experience you, right? So I want you to think about that for a second. It's not who you say you are. It's people's perceptions of who you are. So when you think about your family and your friends and the people who have worked with you, if you had an opportunity to work in professional settings, what would they say about you? And really think about that. And if it is something good, then great. Let's make sure you bring that to the forefront. If it's something that's not so great, then that's an opportunity for you to work on that, right? So before we get into the things that people typically think of when it comes to branding, um, like your outward appearance, let's start to really get into knowing what that is, right? Without knowing it, you've already branded yourself. So whatever people would say about you, that's your brand, whether you want it to be or not, right? That is your brand. So when you start a professional career, you have to let people know who you are without the benefit of them having experienced you or getting to know you over time. With that being said, in every opportunity, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to be able to represent in a very short period of time who you are, right? Um, and we're going to talk about how to do that. But I want to take a step back for a second and talk about the experience. When you think about a restaurant, right, there are certain fast food restaurants that don't have a great reputation and they don't advertise, hey, we have crappy service. They advertise what they believe or what they want people to believe. But if people have a bad experience of them over time, that's really their brand. So I want to be very clear with you all that your brand is not what you say, it's not what you put out there only. It is what you put out there combined with the real, actual experience of you. That is your branding. And every place that someone experiences you, whether it's on the street, whether it's on social media, whether it's with your family, whether it's at a work event, that is your brand. So you carry it with you. That being said, sometimes we talk about the difference between personal and professional branding. And there are ways to segment that. I am of the belief that your personal and your professional brand are not separate. They're not as separate as you think, right? Nor should they be, in my opinion, because like it or not, you bring your full self to any situation. And what I have learned over the years of working in corporate environments and, firms on Wall Street in New York, firms in Miami, firms in New Orleans even, is that whenever I tried to be someone completely different at work versus who I really, really am, it was exhausting. So, what you should do is think about the things that make you you, think about the things that make you special in a very appropriate way, of course, and bring and figure out how to incorporate that into your personal brand and who you are, right? The things that you are naturally curious about, the reasons you chose to get into the type of work that you got into, the reasons that you chose to choose the major that you wanted to choose, right? Even your hobbies, all of those are a composite of who you are. And it's okay to bring that into work. It may actually strengthen the bonds that you have with your coworkers, and that's a good thing. Corporations and business owners, they're not just looking for people who have the skills they need. That's very, very important. That's what gets you in the door, right? But they're looking for people who are likable, who are professional and likable. That's key. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be overly nice or kiss up or anything like that. Definitely be natural and be who you are because inauthenticity stands out. People can sniff it out right away. So if you're being fake or you're being phony, people can sniff that out. And then that diminishes the trust that they have in you, right? They want people who are likable and they want people who fit within their culture. That being said, there is a time and a place for everything, right? You may have a sense of humor that's not really appropriate, but that's not what you bring into the work environment. It's important for you to discern what is appropriate in your environment and what isn't. You can bring yourself to work, but you also have to be first and foremost professional. And what does that mean? That means that you are, you find your place in the flow and in the energy of your work environment, right? Um, and the way you do that is in the beginning of your career, especially in the beginning of your career. I would advise that you spend as much time absorbing what you can about the environment that you're going to be in, right? Sometimes we want to go into a new environment and kind of bust open the door and be ourselves and let people know who we are and impose our personality on everyone, right? Be yourself, but spend a lot of time absorbing environment. And what you will find is you'll start to understand how you fit within the culture of where you are. In some instances, you might find that you're not a really good fit with the people who are around you. And when I've been in those situations, then I just focus on the work. And then, like, my place is to make sure that I am contributing and having good value with my work. And then maybe these aren't the people that I would really gel with on a social perspective. So you really should spend time understanding your environment, understanding the people who are there, and find the natural flow of where you belong in that space. So that being said, that's the foundation of it, right? Creating your brand. How do you do that? One thing that you may not hear very often in creating your personal brand, but it is the most important thing, is to be consistent, right? If you want people to know you for being reliable and being responsible, then be consistently that. If you want people to know you as doing really good work, then be consistent with doing good work. That means that you have to put in the work to do what you have to do and understand that you're not going to always get there, right? We can always be better. I've had over 25 years of experience in business, in corporate America, and I'm still working on ways to make myself better in certain areas. So just recognize those things, be forgiving with yourself, and do your best to get better at it, right? And understand that if you're doing something that's negatively consistent, that obviously works against you, right? But the thing that you should also think about is that if people don't know if they don't know what to know you for, in other words, you're so inconsistent that they really can't peg you. They can't say if you're reliable or not. They can't say if your work is good or not because you've been inconsistent with it. Not only will you not stand out, but like you're not even on the radar. And when you're not on the radar, then the chances of you getting promoted or people recognizing you for things, it starts to diminish because they don't know that you're consistent with something, right? Um, so really focus on that and make sure that at the very foundation of that is that your work is good. If someone is hiring you for a specific skill or to do a specific job, do the best that you can at that job. And even at the beginning of your career, people learn, your employers know that you're going to be making mistakes and you're on a learning curve, but do your best to bounce back from that. What people also look at is your integrity, right? If you make a mistake, you own up to it and then you do better the next time. If they see that in you, they see that that is a part of your character, and that speaks volumes. 90% of what people hear or absorb about you is nonverbal. So you can tell them all the great things about yourself that you want, but if you're not consistent and you're not showing that, then what they're really gonna gravitate to is what you show them. So what does being consistent look like, right? How do you start to put forth your best foot in your personal brand, right? It's really taking the time to know the opportunity in front of you. The marketing 101 is know your audience, right? So that's why I encourage you to take the time to observe the environment around you, right? Know what your employer is looking for. Know what defines success in your environment, right? And be able to galvanize those things to really give yourself a leg up in your career. visualize in advance, like what you want your experience in this place to look like. And I wish someone had told me that years ago. I spent a lot of time just kind of reacting to what the environment that I was in, right? And you definitely should do that. Again, you're sitting there and you're observing and you're taking in where you are, but really visualize yourself as being successful. What does that look like in that environment? When you start to do that, then you know specifically what you have to do to be able to work towards that. And the outward appearance that people will be able to take in, as my final point, is these are the things that they're going to size up, right, as soon as they meet you without having the experience of knowing you. So it's the way you dress, making sure that it is appropriate for a business environment and for the business environment that you're going into. It is how you speak. And when I say how you speak, is it light and airy, or is it a conversational tone? Are you nervous? That's okay. Being nervous is okay. But take the time to practice with somebody that you trust before you end up going somewhere, or you end up being in front of an employer, right? What is your overall energy, right? Is it aggressive? That could put some people off. And when I say aggressive, meaning you're trying to show that you know it all, but a boss doesn't want to, or an employer doesn't want to hire someone that feels like they know everything, because you don't have an opportunity to learn the way they do things in their company. And that's very important, right? And most importantly, your digital footprint, right? Social media. It is okay for you to be personal, but remember, do not post anything that you would not want your future employer to see. If you are unsure whether or not it is appropriate, it probably isn't. Because before anyone hires you, they are going to look at everything online that is related to you. And you may have had a good time, and it's okay to post the things that you're interested in and having fun and going out. But remember, there is a line. And if you don't want your parents to see it, you definitely don't want your employer to see it. That's a good litmus test, right? You don't want your parents to see it, don't post it. Do not post it. And now to your resume, right? And how you look and all of that. And I know all of that will be covered in the training sessions as a part of the Institute. But those are the things that I really want you to think about with your personal brand. We have an answer here about branding from Kenneth. Kenneth says, brand to me is your appearance in person and on social media and dress. Perfect timing, Kenneth, right? Great minds think alike. And that is exactly it. That's a part of it. But remember, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent, and you have to be able to bring yourself to your job and know that all of that is a part of your brand. So I think Sheila right now is really going to talk about the mentoring aspect, what employers will look for specifically, and a coaching aspect of your personal brand.
Yeah, really good stuff, Malika. I've got notes all over the place here. I think my pen was going to run out of ink, just keeping up with all the concepts. We definitely want to come back to the whole social media thing that's there, but there's so many really great points that you made in your commentary, and we'll go to Sheila, and then we'll kind of come back and kind of plow through some of those things. So.
Awesome.
I am also equally thrilled to have Sheila Robinson. We are HR cohorts and partner on a number of different things. I'm always being educated in some other kind of way when working with Sheila. So she brings a lot to the table, and I'm just really excited to have her here this morning. So Sheila, talk to us about some of the experiences you've had on the HR side of things, looking at brands and how people present themselves.
Right. Thank you so much, Perry. And thank you, Malika. You've done an excellent job. I really don't, there'll be a lot of echoing. So, so when you look at your professional and personal brand as it relates to what I see as a recruiter, as an HR person, as a hiring manager, you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself, as Malika said, in the best possible way that you can. I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resumes. And so you have to figure out what is going to set you apart from the rest of the competition. Your resume is the first, it's an initial door to me meeting you. And so you want to look at your initial introduction in your resume. Is your resume well written? Is it easy to kind of go through? Can I glance through it and see exactly who you are as a person? Is it designed well? Now, I'm probably going to put some age on myself just for a minute. When I first got out of college, it was taboo to have any type of colors on your resume. You were not allowed to have pictures on your resume. And so the times have evolved. And I strongly encourage people to use that to your advantage, because it does become your personal brand. If I see your resume and I'm like, oh, this is very well put together and it looks like something I would see on a website, then I'm like, oh, this is great. Let me look at this because it has caught my attention. It's actually caught my eye. You want to make sure that you have highlighted who you are as a person in that resume. So once I see all the prettiness of it, I want to see coursework. You know, what coursework do you have that is related to this particular position? Do you have internships that you've done or you've completed? Are you seeking internships? Have you done research projects? Community service outreach, anything that aligns you with this particular position, with the intern itself, with the job. I need to see that. One thing that I think oftentimes we stress on college students is display all of your leadership qualities. Sometimes I'm not looking for a leader. I am looking for someone who can take data and make a story out of it. I'm looking for someone who is a good listener and then can follow up with the listening and get to the action part of it. So, you know, don't feel as though because you weren't the president of an organization or because you weren't in a leadership role that, oh, I don't have anything to offer. You have everything to offer, because we need all these different personalities, all of these different qualities to push the organization forward. So be mindful of those type of things and highlight those qualities in a prominent way on your resume. And then also, we talk about your professional statement. Your professional statement is essentially your professional branding statement. So this is the question that I would ask. Who do you want to know more about? Would you want to know more about a person who introduced themselves as, I'm an education student who wants to teach children? I might want to know, like, okay, well, what type of children do you want to teach? that may opt me to ask more questions. But if we just framed it up a little differently, such as, I am an education major who has a passion for teaching elementary age children and learning new techniques. That sounds so much better. And it's like, oh, well, let me reach out to this person and find out more. And let me see if I can actually get them into the office or get them on a virtual interview so I can learn more about this person. That has piqued my interest. So we kind of touched on social media presence, just a tad bit. I will tell you now, if you are looking to have a strong professional social media presence, I ask that you please create your LinkedIn profile. Recruiters are always on LinkedIn. They are looking for candidates daily on LinkedIn. So please, please, please consider your LinkedIn profile. Consider following companies that you resonate with, people that you resonate with, because that actually will get you to some of the recruiters who are looking for interns. We're looking for candidates, entry-level positions. So please utilize LinkedIn as much as you possibly can. Also, if you are a blogger, I'll tell you now, I'm not a blogger. I follow blogs though. If you are a blogger, your content sets you apart from the rest of the competition. If I can go onto your blog and kind of learn more about you, as well as learn your stance and your experience, that is excellent. that will get you not only just the interview, but I'm probably sitting in the hiring manager's office like, please look at this, look at that, look at this, look at what this person is presenting to me. But even with all of that, let's talk about your email addresses. As a recruiter, as an HR professional, I think it's great that people want to display their personality in their email addresses. However, I see you looking at gmail.com is not the best email address. Blessed Challenge King 2020 at me.com. That is not the best email address. Make sure your email address is very simple. Your first name, your last name at gmail.com. Or you can even add like the industry you're in. For example, my email address is SheilaRobinsonHR@gmail.com. Something very simple, gets to the point, and I don't kind of blush as I say it or pass it along to the hiring manager. The other thing you want to consider is your phone message. If we get to a point where we can ever go back outside again and have in-person interviews, your message, when I call, that's another gateway into me seeing who you are. I get to hear your voice. I get to hear how polite you are. I can tell if you're smiling as you've left this message. So consider, instead of having the robotic message that everyone has on their cell phones, consider recording an actual message. That's a very key point. So we've done all these things and now we've gotten to the interview. And we're ready. We have our wonderful clothing on. We're sitting in the waiting room. So make sure you have all of your branding toolkit, your resume. If you have business cards, that's great. If you have a portfolio, that's wonderful. Bring all of those things with you. And also have it ready to go in a virtual aspect. So this way, when the conversation is done, when the interview is done, you can quickly send that. And this way I don't have to go back and forth and say, okay, where is this? And ask for this and ask for that. That is beneficial, very, very helpful. So as you sit in front of me, make sure that you've done research on the company. That helps so much in the interview. That shows that you're interested. It shows that you are prepared. And ask questions from the research that you've done. If there are any industry disruptors, if there are changes in the legislation, for example, we just welcomed a new president into office. And so as he signs executive orders, there may be things that change regarding this company. So make sure that you've done the research and you can ask those questions. And then ask very, very simple question. Why is the position open? How will the position evolve over time? I know Malika spoke to that. Where do you see yourself in this position or with this company? How does this position evolve? You don't want to be in a role where you're kind of stuck. You want to continue to grow. And then ask about any technology advances or opportunities that you may be able to implement. Are there gaps? Are there areas where there may need some improvement? All of that helps with building your professional brand, but also making sure I understand who is in front of me. The next thing is your image and your body language. When we are nervous, we do things and you'll argue with a person, I don't do that. Yes, you do. I have a problem with eye contact. I know this. I will look up into the ceiling. My eyes will roll in the back of my head. When I am in a conversation with a person, I have to learn how to focus directly on that person. Sometimes it may be in the center of their head. Sometimes it may be at the tip of their nose. Please don't focus on people's mouths. But you want to make sure that you are focusing and you're giving really good eye contact. Also, you want to slow down as much as possible. I talk fast naturally, so I have to slow down and I have to catch myself and I have to enunciate. So those things are very, very important. One thing I know that candidates do often, if they have a pen that clicks, they will click the pen throughout the interview. And so what I have done, I've started to give people pens that twist or that have a top to them. It's like, if you would hold this pen and let me have your pen, I admire your pen. This way we can get through this interview. So, and then other things such as if you talk with your hands, be mindful of talking with your hands and being very aggressive and leaning forward. All of that is body language, and it could definitely play in your favor or it could play against you, because you don't want the recruiter to feel as though, okay, this person is a little more aggressive than I thought they were, when it's really passion that's coming out. So be mindful of those things as well. As we talk about image and body language, I'm going to pick on the ladies just for a moment. Ladies, makeup is wonderful. It tells all kinds of stories. But remember, when you are going after an internship or a position with a company, there's a day look. And we really, really like the day look. So keep that in mind. Nails, I think nails have come such a long way as I've gotten older. I was like, that is really creative. However, you do not want to scare a person with your nail length and nail color. So try to consider something a little more conservative. And that works not only just in an in-person interview, but also in a virtual interview. Let's see. So as we talk about the virtual side, I'm gonna just kind of touch just a bit. As you're sitting here, like, you can actually peer into a person's life when you're on camera. Like, y'all can clearly see this is my house. But be mindful of sounds in your environment when you're on a virtual call. Be mindful of people walking through your background. And make sure that when you're on camera, I'm seeing what you want me to see, not what you don't want me to see. There have been experiences I've had where I'm interviewing someone and I have to reiterate to that person, this is a drug-free workplace. Or, we have a dress code. So be mindful of what you're presenting when you're on camera. Let's see. And then when you speak well of yourself. Be positive. Talk about the things that you want to learn. If you're not sure about, the direction you want to go in, that's okay. But talk about what you want to learn. Talk about who you want to aspire to be and the skill set that you want to be able to develop. Those things are very, very important to a recruiter and someone who stands in the way of you moving forward, or saying thank you, but not today. So think of all of those things as you make it in front of recruiters and hiring managers. And so after the interview, this is very, very key. Say thank you. You can give a great handshake, and I have your information in front of me. I have your resume and your card. I think it's really cool to give cards. I have all these things in front of me. So say thank you and follow up with a formal thank you email. That thank you email gives you an opportunity to reiterate who you are, what you bring to the company, what you learned in the interview, highlight some key areas that you discussed in the interview. And then it also gives you an opportunity to send links to your blog, links to your website, follow up with LinkedIn. That's an excellent way for me not to have to think of, okay, wait, let me go back to their resume and see who this person was. You've already done all that for me, and that makes it so much easier for me. And I think that pretty much sums it up. I think I just want people to remember your brand will change over time. Be patient with yourself as you develop and mature. And I know, Malika, you can speak to this as well. I've had to be patient with myself. I started my business in May. I've had to be very patient with myself. People have asked for things like, I don't even know what that is. So be patient with yourself as you grow and you learn. And just make sure you have a great team of people around you to support you and get you from one step to the next. And lastly, please remember the world we live in today has many, many, many problems, and we're seeking solutions. So think about how you can be a solution to the problems that are out here in the world today, and dedicate yourself to finding and seeking out those solutions in businesses and organizations. I think that kind of wraps up what I have to say, Perry.
Well, now I have 2 pages of notes all over the place. This is like, we don't have enough time to unpack all of this stuff. This is really great. But I would say that, you know, what's consistent, I would say to you, and how all of this really marries up with what we're trying to do in the 10th Institute is bring in a group of students who are really motivated and dedicated to being the best professional that they can be, and that you apply to our program, and we're going to help you unpack all of these things that, you know, both Malika and Sheila are talking about, because I can say that they're both involved in designing the program and making sure that when we have our students, we're executing against it. So consistent in this, really, I would say, and we're going to talk about this in an upcoming webinar, is self-awareness. So, you know, both Sheila and Malika talked about understanding yourself, right? Understanding the things that you do. Like, I'm here right now waving my hand like I'm asking, throw me something, mister. But, you know, knowing who you are and how you're wired. I'm an introvert. I am a natural introvert. And so when I get ready to go to an interview and prepare myself for that, or prepare myself from presenting even a client, I have to realize how I work and what's my natural stance and what is the part of my brand that I'm trying to present at that moment to affect something, right? That is affect the relationship with my professor, affect my relationship with the company I may be trying to get a internship with, affect a team that I'm on, right? So, you know, you're going to learn, or should learn, about peer leadership, right? You should learn about leading up, right? You should be learning about leading down. All of those stem from, you know, who you are and knowing yourself. And that too is a part of your brand. So again, I go back to being an introvert and knowing that I'm an introvert. So people have thought processes about introvertedness, right? If I want a brand, I have to make sure that my brand is very vocal and out there and people can connect with it. That's not so introverted tendency. So I have to be mindful of that so I can connect. So if you're a student and you tend to be introverted and you're going through school and all of that stuff, introverts tend to have smaller, deeper relationships. That's fine. That's a part of your brand. That's still where you could have deep relationships where those people know who you are. And as Malika and Sheila both talked about, consistency, reliability, you know, great work, you know, engage with people in your environment that helps you to communicate who you are by being in smaller, more intimate groups. Likewise, on the other hand, I'm an introvert. So when I meet a highly extroverted person in an interview or an interaction, I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Like, it's just too much. So also knowing yourself and knowing how to temper that and present your brand in doses that the other person can absorb. And I think both Malika and Sheila talked about, you know, knowing your audience and speaking to that. And so we've got, you know, about 10 minutes left, and I want to kind of go back to our social media thing, because, you know, that is where most younger people are living. You know, I'm a boomer. I live on social media and I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn because of my business and consulting business. And so I'm actively engaged in social media for business purposes and use it definitely and purposely for my brand. And so I want to just kind of go back to that topic because, I think it was, I forget, Malika or Sheila talked about, having a rules of thumb about engaging in a conversation about a topic that might take you someplace where you then start to tweet about something or get into a dialogue with someone back and forth about a topic that then it's like, oh, that's out there in the atmosphere. And now I'm on a thread of, people talking about something that, now I'm attached to that conversation, right? So you guys, just maybe talk about some of the rules you have about engaging in discussions and, how do you kind of stay in there, but not stay in there? Can you just talk to some of that?
I'll give you my take on it. I think that it's important, especially in light of everything that's happening with social justice and some of the issues around humanity, not politics and race, but humanity, right, that are being called into question. I think that having a stance on that is okay. It is, how do you represent that? How do you communicate that? And I think that this is something that everyone of all ages have had to check themselves on, because everything that's been happening, especially over the last year, has been so emotionally charged, and rightfully so, right? But the best litmus test I can give is, if you would not say this in a conference room, if it is something that is contentious, or the way you're saying it is contentious, or think about it if someone from the other side said it to you. If someone from the other side said what you are about to post or tweet to you, and it would cause you to react in a way that was visceral and emotional, then maybe it's something that you should not put out there. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to suppress what you really, really feel, but there's a way to communicate it. And I think all of us over this last year have had to kind of retrain ourselves and be more thoughtful about how we communicate what is very important to us.
Sheila?
Agreed. I think, I honestly, I think that is what has got a lot of people caught up in some major issues, is their response to things, which is something that you can truly control. I have, I've had employees that I've worked with, and I was like, did you say this? Like, is this your account? And we're no longer with the company. So I agree with Malika. Please be very mindful of your responses and how you choose to respond. And sometimes you might just not want to respond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Especially related to your branding. I'm sorry, Malika. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I would agree with that. Like, if you put something out there, sometimes people try to bait you into an argument, or to be combative, or they want to be confrontational. There is a way for you to say what you need to say and just gracefully say, you know what, agree to disagree. That could be your go-to. If you can't find anything like more eloquent than that, you know what, let's agree to disagree, and that's it.
Yeah, I would say to you, my rule of thumb is, if my heart's pumping and I'm shaking trying to get the text message together, then it's probably a message I shouldn't send, because I am hyped up at that moment, and I am, not necessarily in the most stable or logical state of being at that moment, right? And so those are the ways. So I will joke with friends who I'm close with, like, today I had to count to 50. Or I had to count to 100 before I could walk away from that message, right? And so those are the kinds of tools that I think. And let me just say this, because we're talking about brand, and that some cases, and we'll unpack this in the program, you will have things that will happen in person that you will have to count to 50 or count to 100 or go take a walk around your building or go to lunch at 10 o'clock in the morning because something happened, right? So I think learning yourself and learning how to make sure you're in control. My mother always said, do not let them see you sweat. Don't let people realize that they can get under your skin by doing things, because when you react, and we're talking about branding, professional branding, your reaction becomes a part of your brand. That you will be quickly labeled as a hothead or someone who is, always have a point of contention, those kinds of things. And I think, I love, Malika talked about, her brand and the tagline, solution oriented. In your career, people are hiring other people, whether it's a consultant or inside of a company, to solve problems. And having a part of your brand being, reliable, consistent, all those things that we talked about, a clear communicator, right? Someone who knows their presence and they're knowing how their, dress and all of that stuff fits in a certain situation. That is about helping an organization solve problems and earn money. And that's where that employee is going to then earn money and help solve problems. So, we're all in the, either like Sheila and myself from an HR standpoint have been in the room making decisions about who to get a promotion and who to let go. And it's about, that individual and what we've observed about that individual, right? And when we're all in our consulting work, people choose our brands by, again, as Malika and Sheila both pointed out, about the work that they've seen us do and the things that we are associated with. And so being mindful at an early age, even in college, who you're associated with, what you're associated with, taking the time to be intentional about how you present yourself is really all of this branding, stuff that we're talking about and trying to help unpack. And it's a lot, but, guess what? It's a reality. So Malika did talk about your brand is going to be what it is, whether you intentionally are driving that brand or not. So if you're not being intentional, you have a brand and it's all over the place, right? Or you can have a brand that you're intentionally in control in. So, so we've got just a few minutes left. Any sort of closing comments? Malika, we'll start with you and then we'll wrap up.
I'm so glad you said what you said, Perry. And I think one of the words that comes to mind when I was listening to you speak just now is balance, right? Because you're absolutely right. It is a lot. You are human, right? We have emotions and things that we bring to the table. We have experiences that we see things through. We have a lens we see things through, and other people do as well, and they don't always line up. But there is this balance of being human in yourself and also being a part of a team. And it's one that that you will have to find your way to a comfortable place. But all of the things that we've all talked about today are, as Perry said, the reality of what you would deal with. So it's best to go in knowing that, being able to be intentional, like Perry said, and instead of reacting and fixing, a bad mistake that you could have avoided.
Sheila?
I think more so than anything, and you've heard this over and over again, intention. Be intentional. Intentional with in the direction that you want to go in, how you're presenting yourself. Just be intentional. And be, again, I can't stress that enough. Be patient with yourself. Who you are as a freshman in college is not who you may be as a senior in college.
Right.
You're not even going to be the same person, once you go into the workforce. Your experiences transform who you are. So in the process of having fun, because everybody deserves a little fun, ensure
Yes.
your intentionality of who you are, who you stand for, your values, all of that matters when it comes to your personal brand. And we want to be able to see that and to feel that. Like these people who are on this panel, I can see and feel who they are as a person. I can understand their values and what drives them. And that makes me want to be around these people. So you have to ask the question of yourself, is that who I am? Is that what I'm giving off? Do people see those things in me? So
Well, I was excited about this webinar when we started talking about putting together, and I was thrilled when we did our practice session and talked about this, and I'm just like over the top at this moment. I really, really appreciate you both being here today. It's been a lot of fun, and I think we got to do a part 2 because we left a whole bunch of stuff unsettled and undiscovered. So
right.
if there's any students who are thinking about applying to the 10th Institute internship program, please do. You got a little bit of what we're going to try to unpack in that institute and that program and what we're all about. These two fabulous professionals and entrepreneurs are going to be attached to that organization and programming, so you'll get a little bit more of them, and also just engage in your career and what you want from your life. And we're really trying to take things that we've learned and pass it on to help you with getting through that learning curve faster than we did, because I can tell you I made a bunch of boneheaded mistakes. So I'll leave you with that thought and say goodbye to everyone. Thank you, Sheila and Malika, and we'll see you all another time.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.